interested to work with people, with native peoples, and find a way that we could work together. And I think spending time paddling on the river has given me a real good appreciation of that. I mentioned it earlier, I'll plug it again. The Alliance Française of Detroit, of which I'm a member, we organize Detroit French history cruises on the river in June. We get the Diamond Bell with the capacity of 230 people, and we do a tour of the river, pointing out the history the way it was, and the few landmarks that remain. One of those is St. Anne's. The other one is Assumption, recently reopened across the river. Been closed the last 4 years, it's reopened. And the other one is Notre-Dame-du-Lac, further down near Belle Isle. Want to remind people we're going to have the basket raffle at 6 o'clock, so get your tickets in for that. We've got wine tasting down there. You can taste some wine before you buy it. And there's a number of other things going around. Our reenactors, who are tougher guys than I am. I'm not a real reenactor. I just dress this way for a few events a year. And I hope all of you had a chance. It's closed now, but we had the church up earlier in the day, enough to appreciate what was going on here and the historic land that we're on. This young woman here in front of me just informed me that this is part of the French history here. She lives on Gros Isle. As an outsider to Michigan, I always found it funny. It's Gros Isle, but Belle Isle. And I always asked, I came here as a French speaker and I said, why do you pronounce those two words differently? Oh, they said one of them has an S. I said, the S doesn't change anything in the French spelling. The S is old French spelling that got dropped over time. That's why Belle Isle has the S and Gros Isle does not, right? It has nothing to do with it. It's one of those weird things. English words taken into French. I know. But the pronunciation of the two words is identical. It is. And the S in the Belle Isle is the old spelling, and for some reason, Gros Isle used the newer spelling. French spelling wasn't standardized until about the 1800s. And here on the frontier, we were isolated by the 1830s, and French was not very standard anyway, right? But the first night they slept on Gros Isle, and they said, you know what? Maybe the real estate values will be better. Or, I don't know why. They're better down at Gros Isle. Yeah, and actually I was just informed that on Gros Isle there is a small chapel called St. Anne's Chapel, and the first night that Cadillac came down here, July 24th, 1701, they spent the night on Gros Isle, and then they came back here and said, hey, the river's narrower back there, we can control it with a couple of cannons, and built Fort Pontchartrain there downtown where Cobo Hall is, just in front of where Cobo Hall is, okay? But one very interesting point is the use of the island river down here at Belle Isle, which in fact used to be called Île des Cochons. That is Island of the Hogs, Hog Island, Cochon. And that was called Hog Island because the French brought pigs with them, and the local Indians hadn't seen pigs before. And pigs eat anything, and they dig them up. And the pigs were digging up the Native American gardens and crops, and in order to try to keep the peace, they decided, we'll put the hogs out on this island, which became known as Hog Island, so it doesn't bother the Indians too much. We keep peace with our neighbors. Only later in the 1850s, when a certain Mr. Woodward owned Hog Island, he decided to change the name of the island after his daughter, whose name was Belle. So the Belle Isle of Belle Isle fame really has nothing to do with anything French. Sounds nice. Two French words, Belle and Isle. But it has nothing to do with the French things. And Hog Island was a point of dispute because it was common land. Anybody could use it. Anybody could use it. But it was under the French. But when the British came, they started selling it, and the French said, no, everybody can use this. It was a big point of contention, and loyalists who were escaping the colonies ended up living on the island. How we doing, Bells? Checking, okay. So I'll let them explain a little bit, but I would like to point out that weird instrument in the middle, hurdy-gurdy, or in French, is known as a vielle, V-I-E-L-L-E. Vielle à roue, and that's one of those toughest words. I'll stay out of the things. So it's a vielle à roue, a wheel hurdy-gurdy. And we talked about this before. The most famous modern group is a French musical group for those of us who are into traditional music. And the name of the group is Advienne que pourra, which is a play on words of Advienne que pourra, which means come what may. But the vielle is this wonderful instrument that they will tell you about. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Bell family. Bells, go.
Thank you, John. We are so honored to be here because even though we're from Michigan our whole lives and we're a little bit Irish and a lot more French, and my best friend from Dublin, Ireland is here right now to watch me and laugh. We feel like we've got a special connection to St. Anne's Church because we came last year to the Rendez-vous and I won a raffle basket. Raise your hand if you're planning to win a raffle basket tonight. I am so excited to see who wins the raffle baskets. But we feel a special connection to St. Anne's because we do have many St. Anne's ancestors who started out in this corner of Michigan and also in Monroe and worked their way up to St. Clair County, and then finally where we are is east of Saginaw in the Thumb. And so my dad was a piano tuner. He's here tonight. He's in his 80s. And we grew up in a large family of 5 boys, and we played the crazy instruments that he brought home. If you couldn't pay, you might give him a marimba. And so we learned to play crazy instruments and fight on stage from an early age. And so we're happy you stayed to hear us tonight. And do you want to say something, Terry, before you play?
Okay, yeah, this is my hurdy-gurdy. Very popular in France yet today. Known in France as a vielle à roue. And I think that means wheel fiddle, doesn't it? Fiddle with a wheel? A hurdy-gurdy. The Brits call it a hurdy-gurdy, the Italians call it a sinfonia, and the Swedes call it a gradulira. So it goes by many names. Many different sounds come out of it. It has many different names. We're going to start out, and I'll play a sound sample of the hurdy-gurdy, and the boys here will be patient with me, and then we'll get on with the noise here.
dance music. We primarily are instrumentalists, and so please, if you hear a gavotte or a hornpipe or a jig or a reel, and if it sounds a little bit like Montreal meets Dublin, that's because most of our ancestors in Montreal married Irish ancestors, and so we just want to celebrate this wonderful thing that we're here in Michigan, and we're just so honored to be here. And here's a couple dance tunes if you feel like you need to dance. When we have this many stringed instruments on a nice rainy day like this, and then we've got a goatskin drum, sometimes we just have to do technical things while we're playing because we're all hooked up. We've got the best sound guy in the world, and just would really like to say thank you for Paul, John, the groups that came before us. It was such a treat for us to get here. You know, for some of us from the thumb, it was the first time we saw the Detroit River and went on I-75 South. So that was a neat treat, right, Cousin Teresa? There you are. Teresa was my navigator, and we've been in a lot of different places.
Oh, yeah.
But I was really glad to see my best friend and his wife and boys and my mom and dad here with us tonight. And thank you for all you nice people for staying. And Terry, let me know when you're ready.
We have a special guest. He's small, He doesn't talk much, and he sure likes to dance. And his name is Jerry. And my brother Steve is going to play one of his favorite tunes, a little waltz type thing, if anybody'd like to come out here and do a little waltz, with our friend Jerry, the Jumping Jack. Give Jerry a hand, please.
Gotta go.
Thank you. Sometimes, stand still, Jerry. Sometimes, stand still, Jerry. Sometimes, stand still, Jerry. Okay, Steve has a little, what is it, Steve?
A few reels, and again, that was your opportunity on the last calisthenic dance tune called the waltz to do some prep, get those muscles going. But doesn't matter. You don't feel like waltzing tonight, so maybe just come on up and step dance if you want to. You ready?
Let's go off to California with the red-haired boy. Huh?
Let's go.
lot. That was, well, it wasn't an Irish song, but it was maybe an English song. It was a hornpipe, the first one off to California. Sailors would dance on the deck to a rhythm like that for exercise. And these are the kind of tunes we heard played by old fiddlers up in the thumb of Michigan. We're from around Saginaw. The old fiddlers that I knew used to hear me play stuff like this. They'd say, oh, let's listen to Steve play one of his Canadian tunes. These are what they called, the old fiddlers I knew called these the Canadian tunes. Kind of Irish, kind of French, and a lot what?
A lot of maritime, a lot of down east, even some Boston thrown in. But yeah, our ancestors that, especially if they met at the local parish and maybe shared the same faith, then you heard the Irish reels being given French names and some French gavottes being given some Irish names. And so the tunes, you know, just like the families here in Michigan, they met at the local parish and they prospered at the local parish and they had children through the local parish. And who here by show of hands is from a large family? Anybody? Right, of course. What a stupid question to ask here, right? And so there are 5 of us sons in the family, and there may be more, but what that meant was that if a granddaughter came along, she was spoiled rotten, right? And so we do want to remember the ones in heaven looking down on us right now. Brother Randy, our grandma, Aunt Greta. If you are thinking of a loved one, just go ahead and say their name. We're going to send up a candle flame right now. This hurdy-gurdy is my fascination because he built his hurdy-gurdy, and the hours that went into the keys and the strings and all the mechanics of it are absolutely unbelievable. And so he'd like to...
It's actually like a small piano. It's got all the keys inside. So you push like this. It's in a class by itself. In France, known as the vielle roux, has many strings on it. It has 2 inside strings called chanterelles, 1 big fat drone string at the bottom called a gros bourbon, a smaller one called the petit bourbon, another one called the trompette. Oh, it's just full. 105 working parts on it, I believe. That's about all I can do to go with 2 hands to try to play a tune. But I love the sound of this thing. It's the sound of the 1700s when French lute makers all of a sudden were asked, can you make me a hurdy-gurdy? And faster than they could rip the necks off their lutes, they were pumping out hurdy-gurdies in the 1700s. I'm going to play 3 songs here in a row. The first one is a song called Farewell to Willow Ridge. That's a translated name of a European town, sort of as the folks were leaving town. The second one, you'll know, and I won't say the name. And the third one is one that we made up for a recent Renaissance festival. It's concerning belly dancers. If we have belly dancers here, now I know my dad is here and he's attempted belly dancing at least twice. So here we go.